Interesting drug DWI case. Obviously, you can't drive while intoxicated. You also can't drive while you're impaired by drugs. Now, that doesn't just mean illegal drugs, and it doesn't just mean drugs that you're not allowed to take. It also includes drugs that you're supposed to be taking. My client is actually a diagnosed schizophrenic and is prescribed some pretty heavy medications that he takes on a daily basis. Again, he takes them appropriately. He takes them as directed by his doctor. He takes them and he goes to work. The problem is that if these medications in some way impair your ability to drive, then they're still illegal to be driving on. So a good example, let's just say you're prescribed Ambien and you take the Ambien. That doesn't mean that you're allowed to drive on it. Now, what's the test? How do you know whether or not you're allowed to drive on something or not? The question is whether or not that drug is impairing your ability to drive. If a drug impairs your ability to drive and you are pulled over and they do tests on you, the cops will try to determine whether or not your driving is impaired by that drug. And if it is, then they will arrest you. Now, how do they test for that? The answer is that they'll take, instead of a breath test, if they offer you that portable breath test and your breath comes back as a 0, but you're obviously impaired, then the next step is the cops are going to presume that there's a drug in your system. Now, they may ask you what drug is in your, have you taken any drugs today, any prescription medication? Obviously, don't talk, don't admit to anything. That's number one. The next thing they'll do is ask for a sample of your blood. Do not give a sample of your blood. If that blood comes back, it will show drugs that are in your system, and there are some drugs that will stay in your system for quite some time. So let's just say you smoke weed. Even if you had weed even if you smoked weed yesterday, there is likely to still be THC in your blood. So if you give blood, even if you're not currently impaired by that drug, it might still be present in your blood. And so I highly recommend not consenting to blood. The other thing is that there are some pretty good excuses in front of a judge or a jury why you might not consent to blood. Think about it. You're not in a hospital. You're not at a doctor's office. You're at a police station. And you have the police saying to you, hey, I want to put a needle in you and take your blood. Now, it will be an EMT who comes to the police station, but I think that it's a pretty reasonable excuse why to refuse to give a blood sample at a police station, as opposed to a breath sample, which is obviously a lot less invasive. Now, keep in mind, if you refuse to give blood, the same repercussions are there if you refuse to give breath. So just like your license is automatically suspended if you refuse to give a breath sample, likewise, if you refuse to give a blood sample, your license will likewise be suspended. There are other caveats that we've spoken about in other videos, but just keep that in mind. So my client, like I said, was on his prescribed medication, but the allegations are that these prescribed medications do impair him. In this particular case, we're trying to get my client into what's called mental health court. He obviously has some mental health issues, and we're trying to address those. So hopefully we can negotiate a type of disposition which sort of helps the situation rather than just punishes the situation.